Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Stephen Williams with thecreditrepairshop.com. I hope everyone had a great weekend. I did not get to make my videos last week because we were extremely busy. I'm talking about very busy. But let me tell you about some things that happened, and I want to also make you aware of something that if you have trouble with a vehicle that you purchased, it could be new or used. I was not aware of this until about a month ago, but I didn't want to say anything about it until uh, the transaction was completed. But back in 20, I think it was, early 2016, I had purchased a G Wagon, a Mercedes G Wagon. It's that box um Mercedes that a lot of people like. It got a lot of attention when I bought that. It was one of the only ones in my city, and it was the only one in my city where I live at. And then here in Milwaukee area, I think a couple of the sports players have one, and a couple other people that I ran across. And very expensive vehicle, probably like if you bought it new, like 150,000. Of course, I didn't buy it new. I don't buy my vehicles new, but I do buy them when they're 2 years, after 2 years, because that's when a lot of the depreciation goes down on the vehicle. But I bought it, and I loved the vehicle, or I liked it. I didn't really, it drove pretty tough. It's definitely a guy type car, but I mean, I drove it for some years. And then last summer started having some problems where the check engine light just wouldn't go off. I would take it to the dealer because I had purchased the extended warranty on the vehicle, and so I would take it to the dealer. They would take look at it, say it's fixed, give it back. It wasn't. The light was continuing to come on. The vehicle ran fine, but the light came on, and I was like, I refuse to have a vehicle where check engine light is on while I'm driving it. So, long story short, after 6 months of them, I probably test drove for each month. I would have to go take the car back in the rental car that they would was giving me back in, because they held my vehicle since August of last year. They had my vehicle. Every month I was getting another Mercedes to drive. So I know all about the SUVs with the Mercedes, because I've driven just about all of them, because they would just swap me out one every month. But uh, in January, I had just kind of got sick and tired of all the excuses about a part on the way. They even claimed that they had went to Mercedes overseas directly with the engineers to try to figure out what's going on with my car, and they claimed that there was a part that they had to get, but they had a hard time getting it. And I was like, how are you going to tell me you're having a hard time getting a part, and you're the ones that make this vehicle? They didn't have anything to say about that. So I called the warranty department directly with Mercedes, and I became aware of something that I never was aware of. Now, we know about lemon laws with cars. Everybody knows about that. You buy a new car, problem with it in the first year, lemon law applies to it. They have to, buy the car back from you. But this was something that I didn't even know about, and they told me, because I've purchased so many Mercedes, I think I'm on my ninth one, that because I had been a good uh, customer, that there were options that were available to me, but they didn't want to promise anything, but there was options that were available to me. Well, what ended up happening, and I didn't want to speak about it until the transaction was complete, and last week the entire transaction was complete. I purchased a car for $71,000 in 2016. After everything was completed, they gave me back $63,000. So I got to drive the car for the 3 years, well, up until last August. Enjoyed it, everything, very nice vehicle, and because of this program, it's called a buyback program, and that's where they evaluate the situation of the vehicle. I guess they talked with the dealership. Dealership told them up front, hey, there's nothing we could do. I don't know what else we could tell them. And I must say that they were very good with their work. They tried to help the situation, but it just wasn't going to happen. But they bought my vehicle back and paid me $63,000 and some change back on the vehicle. And so we ended up very happy. But this is what, if you're having any type of issues with the vehicle and you purchase the extended warranty, I believe that this is what was the mechanism to have that happen. A lot of people that I've talked to said that I was very lucky for that to happen, but maybe I was. But it's still an option if you or a friend or family members having problems with a vehicle and it's still under the either extended warranty or the manufacturer's warranty. They do offer buyback programs, but no one, not even a dealer, really knew much about this, or they didn't want to speak too much about it. But Mercedes took care of it, so I have nothing bad to say about Mercedes. They took care of it. They paid me that money back, and then we went out and got another vehicle to replace that one at this. But kind of sorry to say we didn't go to Mercedes because me and my wife have this rotating agreement that when I buy a car, the next time it's her choice of a vehicle. And when I got the G Wagon, it was my turn, but this time it was her turn. And she got Land Rover Autobiography. You can look that up. That's a very nice car. I mean, it's got everything in it. Autobiography edition. Very nice. And she gave me her Land Rover, which is a very nice Land Rover. I drive that for work. And then I do have a Mercedes coupe that I drive during the summer. It is put in the garage right now. 550 coupe. So those are nice vehicles. But if you ever have any of those types of problems, that is a potential option, which is ask the dealer or ask the warranty about the buyback program. So now let's move on to the new debt that's being released. We got some education debt that was released the other day for uh, almost $1.7 million. They're going to be going after, and this is going to be very hard debt to. These people are going to have to pay 100%. The amount that they want to get for it is very high, and that's because you can't write this debt off in bankruptcy. The other debt is jewelry debt, $8.9 million in jewelry debt, and that's over the Christmas holidays. Can you believe that? Over the Christmas holidays, uh, so a lot of people bought jewelry and they've already defaulted on the payments with the jewelry. So up from the holidays going up into December, that's where this debt is coming from. And then we got some more credit card debt, 1.85 million and $2.7 million worth of debt. Now, let's talk about how to deal with it, because what they're going to do first, and if I look up, I'm looking at cameras. I got cameras in all the offices in my building, and I look at, sometimes one of my employees moving, it gets my attention, or someone might come into the office. But first thing they're going to do when these debt buyers buy this debt, what they're going to do is they're going to craft the letter, and on that letter they're going to make it look like a bill, but actually that letter is asking you to either dispute the debt or asking you to pay it. But most people only pay attention to the bill because that's just like what's conscious in our mind. If somebody say you owe me money, we disregard some of the other stuff if we don't read it, and then we move forward to I don't know what I'm going to do with this bill. Or maybe you know that you owe the debt, and then you get all flustered and you're like, oh man, they're coming after me for this bill and I'm not going to respond. Well, if you don't respond in that 30-day period, even if you didn't owe the debt, you're legally going to allow them to take a step to put that on your credit reports because you didn't respond. So step number one is you need to respond to that debt, to that letter. if you know that the debt is yours, what you should do is you should do a validation to them and make them prove everything about that debt. Prove why you should pay them the money. Uh, get all of the charges from the original creditor. Tell them you don't know for sure if you are still legally obligated for that debt. And then that goes into step two. Step two is you need to, especially if you know that this is a debt that you owed and is from the past, you need to look at your statute of limitations for your state for contract debts. And it's different for every state. I wish I could just give you a number, but it's different for every state. Some states are shorter, some states are longer. So you need to look that up. If it is past the statute of limitations for your state, that means that they had not tried to contact you within that period of time, that you didn't make any small payments within that period of time to them or the debt collection company. If you didn't do that and it's past statute of limitations, you can disregard validating the information about the charges, and you could just send them a letter to the original creditor and the debt collector stating that you are not legally obligated to pay this debt according to the statute of limitations for the state that you live in. And you send that certified mail to both of them, and I guarantee you that debt will go away if you do that properly. Now, let's move to the next step, where if it is within the statute of limitations, or you accidentally made a small payment to them, which restarted the debt when you did that. That's why you have to be careful. Some of the debt collectors, one of the traps that they do is they'll call you and say, "Well, can you pay $1? Can you pay $10? Whatever." If you pay that, that starts the whole time period over for that debt. So you have to be careful when these old debts come back at you. So let's go and move forward and say that it's not past statute of limitations, and then you're just waiting on those documents to come from the debt collector and the creditor. If the debt collector purchased the debt, then you want to have them prove, number one, that you need to pay them, get the bill of sale that they purchased it to prove that they own the debt, get all of the charges which they're required to have when they carry that debt over. You want them to send all of that to you. The signature showing that you got the loan or that you got the credit card, the charges that you made, all of that. By law, they have to maintain that information. They must provide it when you do a validation. If they're just assuming it from another debt collector, you need to make sure that they do that, and then that they transfer that information over to the original debt collector so they can go to the original creditor and get that information. If you do those steps and they don't have it, it's going to, number one, they're not going to move forward with it, because if you were to go into court, let's just say that they move forward and they take you to court with a court summons, you would be able to make that request in court, and the judge will make them provide that, because they can't just come into court and say that you owe a debt. They have to prove it. So now let's go to the next phase. If they provide all of that information, they give you everything to validate the debt. And what I would advise you to do is to, and I'm not an attorney on this, but I'm not saying that this is legal advice, just telling you what I would do is that you need to move forward to negotiate a discounted settlement on that debt. It will doing all that work at the beginning will put you in the best position to be able to move into to that settlement, because they know that you have requested information, that you know the laws, and sometimes they maybe didn't provide any documents or something that could be a technicality that could get you out of paying it, but you don't want to have to get a lawyer to dig into everything that they've done, where you can actually pay them less than what you would pay a lawyer, unless it's a big, huge debt. Then you might want to look at that option. But and when you sit down, if you do it with a judge or you do it over the phone with them, you can usually negotiate pretty good settlement. Sometimes they're going to want to have financials, and this is where you would go back and forth, and you would say, well, how much of a discount if I do this with one lump sum payment without any financials? They might give you a certain amount, and then they say with financials they'll give you another amount. That's where they want you to prove that this will be a big hardship. I always tell people don't do payments unless you have to when you're doing settlements, because if you're already having trouble paying your bills and then you're making a whole nother payment, you have to be very careful about adding that payment, or you need to make sure that it fits within your budget, because you don't want to put yourself in a worse situation by starting to pay them, and then every payment that you make to them starts the cycle over on how long they can come after you for the debt. So you have to be very careful with that. So if you I hope that information has been very helpful to you. And if you need help with your credit, you can look us up. Go to the creditrepairshop.com. I have several programs. One is do it yourself, and another one is where we can do the work for you. And but either which way, or you can just comment here with your questions, and I'll do my best to answer those questions on what we've done successfully with other clients that might be in the same situation you're in. All right, and until next time, thank you for watching.